And the little voice just comes in, well, you don't have any money for this. Well,
Mm.
you have a plan, And so like that voice kind of won me over probably 60, 70%. And I was like, okay, I'm not doing this.
Welcome to Winning the Divine Lottery. I'm your host, Amy Dawes. Ted, it's so nice to see your smiling face. I love that you're here with me. I love how we got to connect through our mutual friend. I mean, isn't it amazing how people just come into our lives at the right time for the perfect reason that we're still discovering and allowing to unfold? Welcome, welcome, another fellow Saskatchewanite.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. And yeah, I'm so happy to be here and absolute synchronicity as always and as to be expected. And once again, synchronicity brings us together.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite topics, by the way, synchronicity. When it starts to become your normal, like it
Yeah.
happens every day, all day long.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think it's just like once you start being aware and noticing that, and at least that's been my experience. And it's like this is the norm because now I'm seeing the patterns and yeah, that's kind of how the world works, I think.
Yeah. I'd love to dive into that a little deeper to expand even me getting to know you a little bit, but also for our listeners, because everybody has, I think, a different definition of synchronicity and what that even looks like. Like how did you get to this place in your life, Ted, where you are saying this is how the world works when you become aware and you start to notice that synchronicity is always happening. You didn't say that, but I say that.
Yeah, well, it's just been a lifetime of learning and growing and self-discovery, right? The first part of my life I spent partying and having so much fun, but not really paying attention to what was going on around me. And then, the second part of my life was more observing and being still and practicing and growing. And the more that I get in tune with the world around me, the more I notice that it's very cliche, but everything happens for a reason, right? And I think that refers to synchronicity. We're all where we're supposed to be right now, and um, you kind of have to. My experience has been like I do a lot better in my day if I just go with the flow of the river rather than try and swim against the current, right? So trust and have some faith in things and just be like, yeah, this is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I love your attitude and your perspective on that. Take me through a time in your life where you didn't live your life like that. What was that like for you? And then bring me to a place like what changed in between that, like this old version of Ted and this new version of Ted.
Yeah, well, I lived quite a period of chaos in my life, actually. Um, I had about 13 years where I was pretty involved with like I referred to the party lifestyle, right? Like addiction and just doing all that stuff. And I don't regret a second of it. Like I met a lot of interesting people. I did a lot of interesting things. That's probably the understatement of the year. And I learned a lot of the things that I don't want to do and what was really important to me and things I did want to do. So it's kind of like a two-chapter book, my life. There's like the before Ted and the after Ted. And yeah, I don't know. That's what led me here. And then I guess that chapter two, like I alluded to earlier, was just been full of self-discovery, right? Like observing people, observing nature, listening to that inner voice, like doing work with coaches and doing work on my own and just trying to be better than I was yesterday and help more people and give back more and make more money and have a more successful business and more successful relationships and just really focusing on like what the heck do I want out of this life?
Mm.
Right? Because like no dress rehearsal, like this is the show, right? So I
Mm.
want it all. So I'm out there trying to get all those things that feed my soul.
Ah, I love that so much. I want it all, and I want to get all those things that feed my soul. And even the question, what do I really want out of this life? A lot of people don't even ask themselves that and don't realize that we can ask ourselves that. And that begins like the process of discovery and exploration and possibility and potential.
Yeah, well, see, for me, it was pretty easy because I was coming from such a place of scarcity and darkness, right? Like I'd got to a
Yeah.
pretty low space in my life. So it was pretty easy for me. It's like, okay, well, I want to live, right? Like that's okay, well, that's step one. And that's innate, I think, in our beings. And then so from that, it just sort of started unfolding. And I think my true nature is also very expansive, right? So
Mm,
once I got a foothold on chapter two, that next part of my life, then it just sort of started unraveling. But it was pretty easy for me. Like it didn't take a lot of, well, that's not true. I guess I have a strong desire to grow and be more, right? So, but you still have to do the work. So
yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
you
but
can't bypass the work.
you can't bypass the work. That's
Yeah.
unfortunately there's not a lot of shortcuts most of the time.
Yeah. I believe it's all of our true nature to be expansive and to expand, and that's part of the reason why we're here. So can I ask you, like when you were into your fun partying stages, did you consider yourself an addict? And did you go through a program or did you have a coach to become clean, or did you do that all on your own?
No, I did all that stuff. Coaches, programs on my own, hanging out
All
in
of it.
nature, going fishing. I did it all, right? Like I'm an intense guy. So when
Yeah.
I grasp onto a new idea,
Mm.
like I'm all in. So yeah, I did everything that I needed to do. And like you said, you can't bypass the steps. So
Yeah.
you get out of life what you put into life. And so like every other phase of my life, I was all in on that stuff. So
Yeah. I feel like you're the guy that's taken like all the darkness that you did go through, but you've turned it around and used it for as such a gift to give other people. Like I can feel that energy from you that you're just that guy that sees people and acknowledges people and can truly help people because you've been where they've been.
well, you're 100%. Like it is a gift. And if you don't see it as a gift, then I guess that's up to you. But these challenging times in our life are the greatest moments for learning. Like,
Yeah.
I look at life like a series of ups and downs. And so you're up on the top of the mountain, you're down in the valley. On top of the mountain, you're down in the valley. And on top of the mountain, the view is spectacular. And I encourage everybody to hang out there as long as they can and soak up all of the view. But if your mission in life is growth, like mine is, and expansion, you got to go back down in the valley because that's where all the learnings are and I mean, there's so many gifts down there.
Yeah.
So, there's kind of the two types of people that they get in the bottom of the valley and one of them goes into victim mode and goes, oh my God, this is terrible. I'm in the bottom. Nothing ever good happens to me. Or you can go like, okay, I've trained for this. What is there to learn here? Let's get through it because I want to get back up on the mountain again, but not till I've learned what I need to learn. Uh, Most days I'm the second person, although some days I'll snap into the first guy for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that analogy. And I've always seen like this also, it's the rhythm of our heartbeat, you know? And if it was doing anything other than this and it was a straight line, I mean, that would mean we're dead and our life is over. So this actually means we're living. And
Yeah.
and I love that. And it's so true, right? Like we have these peaks and these valleys, but it's all part of the game. Like it's all part of the show, as you said. And it's like the peak isn't more important than the valley, and the valley isn't more important than the peak. It's all how you do it. It's all how you show up and who you're being while you're in both places and in between as well.
Yeah, I feel that. It's, the yin and yang and the dark and light. Like you can't have one without the other. You need them both. And
Hmm.
I mean, like it or don't like it, that's the human experience, right? It's
Yeah.
that's what it is. So you may as well embrace it. And like I said earlier, go with the current because I
Yeah.
spent a lot of years swimming against the current and you get pretty tired pretty fast.
Yeah, it's so true. And everything is energy. I actually just had an experience literally in the last like couple hours with this where I'm just gonna share this, but I'm traveling a lot this summer. And one of these trips I was supposed to be traveling with a friend, and it's like a 30-hour drive to where we're going. And last night I just felt this energetic thing in my body saying no, like you're not supposed to drive there. And my conscious mind was trying to figure out why, where intuitively I knew my body was just saying no. And I couldn't figure it out. I didn't know why. But what it led me to doing was having a conversation with my friend, which led us to seeing what flights were like to go there. And there was a seat sale on today. And so we totally rearranged everything, booked flights. We're going to rent a car instead. And as soon as all that happened, it was like liberation in my body. Like my intuition was guiding me in one direction. And as soon as I listened to it and I honored it, despite me being able to know why, it was like a fuck yes in my soul.
Back to the opening comment, synchronicity. Here we are
Right?
again, right? Good job for listening and paying attention and going with it. That's
Yeah.
marvelous. Because so often we just listen to that little voice in our head that's like, oh no, you can't do that. You already have a plan, don't break your plan.
Yeah. Yeah, or I noticed because I'm very observant too. Like I noticed how my mind would even go into like the little stories of trying to create it on a personal level that this is why this is happening. This is why I'm feeling this way when no, it was actually just my intuition saying this is a better plan for you. Like we know what you actually want out of life. So trust this.
Yeah, I get it. Like once I realized that I'm just a speck of dust on a speck of dust on a speck of dust in this infinite cosmos, it got a lot easier, like it's like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm not really that important here. Like there are forces bigger than me that can probably do a better job of figuring this out. So
Yeah.
if my idea wasn't a great one, it's okay,
Yeah,
but there's a
right?
better plan.
Yeah. We get to play and we get to co-create. I think that's the fun part. Speaking of, you have some really fun manifestation stories that I would love to dig into, specifically one about a house that I only heard not from you. So I'd love to hear it like straight from you, what happened, because this is all about winning the divine lottery, which is all the ups and downs, but the process that we go through of actually being able to say yes to something that we're calling in or creating in our life. I love that. Like that's where the juicy bits are. So would you please share with us and our listeners, Ted?
Yeah, well, I'd love to. It's an interesting story. I'll preface it with saying it's not your typical manifestation story. Like it has so
Yeah.
many like quirks and bumps and things along the road. Like this was this isn't my typical manifestation style. Like I fought it tooth and nail, as you will hear as I tell you this story. But sometimes the universe has to win, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I guess interestingly enough, and this didn't come to my memory until just till many years after I had the house, but I found a piece of paper. It's actually in a drawer about 10 feet from me right now that I wrote down what my dream house would have on it. I was on vacation in Maui and we were staying in this really nice VRBO and it had so many of the features I wanted to have in my home. And at that point in my life, I lived in a very, very modest home. I'd never had anything even close to average, right? But I'm manifesting, so I'm writing down the dream list, all this stuff that is like so far beyond what my financial means actually could have, just thinking, and this house put me in that space, right? Like uh in Maui. So I wrote down this list, tucked it away, forgot about it. And maybe within a year, I started formulating a plan for this dream home that I was going to co-create and bring this thing into existence. So I decided that I wanted to be on the river. There's the Saskatchewan River here, and because I love water, and I wanted to be on the river, and I wanted to have some, trees around. I really love forests. It just gives me peace and serenity. And I wanted to build a new house because I wanted to, never done that, and I wanted to build it just perfect the way I wanted. So that's what I was going to do. And I didn't have the money, of course, but I knew what I wanted, and I didn't want to have a bunch of debt, so I wanted to save till I had a substantial amount, to put down towards it. And so this was my plan. And so out of the blue, I get a call from my aunt, and she said, "Oh my goodness, Cheryl is selling the house." And Cheryl and Courtney were friends of mine and my aunt's, and Courtney had passed away, and Cheryl was out on this acreage by herself, and it was just too much work for her. It's 80 acres, and she was 70 years old or so, and she just was going to move back to Victoria, where she's originally from. And I'm like, yeah, that's great, but I'm not interested because I'm going to build a new house on the river once I have the money. This is not what I want. And she's like, oh, well, it just seems perfect for you. And I'm like, well, it doesn't seem perfect to me. But thank you for the call, and I hope you have a nice day. So there's me saying no to the first messenger. So then second messenger shows up, and it's my partner in life, Tusha. And she goes, you know what? I just heard from my friend Jill. Jill's going to be listing Cheryl's house. And like, it just sounds perfect. Like, it's out in nature. It's got all the trees. It's got all this stuff. And I'm like, I guess I'll just remind you that I'm going to build a new house on the river once I've saved up some money, and this isn't what I want. So, okay, fine. Well, a few more weeks pass, and my aunt phones me again. Well, no, she's like, I really think you need to open your mind to this because I can just see you out there. Like, it's just so perfect for you. No, no, I'm going to build a new house on the river once I have some money. Then a few weeks more pass, I get a call from the realtor. Hey, it's Jill. Like, I just listed this property. Like, it is so you. You need to live here. Like, oh my God, you got to see this place. It's like, yeah, I've been out there a bunch of times. It's magical. I get it. But I'm going to build a new place on the river once I've saved up some money. So it's just like, I'm being pretty stubborn, right? Like the messages are coming hard and fast. So eventually I get a call from Cheryl. And Cheryl's like, hey, Ted, I've got this place for sale. And like, you know, it would be perfect for you. And it'd be great. Like, we'd love you to have it. And I'm like, no, Cheryl, I'm building this place on the river. It's going to be new, and I'm going to wait till I have money. I don't really have any money right now. Okay, well, that's fine, Ted. But would you come out? I've got this really big crystal, and it was really important to me and Courtney. And I'm kind of a little weird that way. I collect rocks and crystals and stuff like that. And she's like, come on out, and you can come pick this up. There's no way I can have this like on my flight to Victoria and have this in my condo. Okay, cool. So I come out, get sitting on the front deck with her. My heart just opens. Like, it just opens up like 100%. Like, I'm listening to the birds. I'm smelling the wild flowers. The sun is on my face. It's like, it's 100% perfect. I'm just like, my God, I love this place. And she's like, would you like to go for a walk in the trails? And they have walking trails for several kilometers, different paths all through the forest. And I'm thinking about work, like I got to get back to work. So the little voice in my head is like, we got to roll.
Yeah.
But I love Cheryl, and so I said, yeah, yeah, okay, well, let's make some peppermint tea for the walk. So it's like time slowing down as I'm trying to like get going, and she's making tea, and so we go for this walk. While I get in the trails, I thought I was at 100% loving it. I really wasn't. Like it just magnituded out to even greater. The
Wow.
birds are singing, there's deer crossing the path, running around out in front of us. Like it's just the most spectacular place for me, right? So we get back to the yard, load the crystal in the truck. I start driving back to the city, and the little voice just comes in. Well, you don't have any money for this. Well,
Mm.
you have a plan, you know? And so, like, that voice kind of won me over probably 60, 70%. And I was like, okay, I'm not doing this.
Hmm.
So I got a little nudge from somebody, I can't remember who, maybe a couple more nudges. So I thought, well, I'm going to go back and sit with Cheryl. So I go back, sit on the deck again. My heart opens, the birds are singing. Well, I'm like, okay, I'm not fighting this any longer. So I phone Jill, the realtor, and say, like, I know Cheryl pretty good. So, like, you come out, we'll all just sit together and, we'll just, I don't want this to be a back and forth negotiation. Just tell me what you want, right? And we'll paper it. So we do this, following my heart and not my logical mind, but still in the back of my mind, I'm like, this place is magical, but the house needs, um, not needs, but a lot of 80s decor and stuff that are just outdated. And my vision of it was different, right? I wanted to tedify it and do some of my things, right?
Edify it. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm like, well, I don't know how this is going to happen, but whatever, I'm into it now. So I buy the house, and I don't remember the timeline specifically, but within a couple of months, I closed the largest real estate transaction. I'm a realtor.
Yeah.
I sell farmland, and I closed the largest real estate transaction in the province's history. So, so I get this seven-figure check, like,
Wow.
and it's just like, well, I guess I'm going to tedify the place and get all the stuff I needed. I mean, the money was there. That was my holdback, was the money was part of it.
Yeah.
And really the water, which I thought was the river, turned out to be the pool of possibilities, which they have, which
Oh,
Courtney was a famous photographer. So his last 40,000 images were of this pool, just this magical place. And then 2 or 3 years later, I found this list that I wrote in Maui, and like everything was in it except for, I think, skylights and the river. Like it was a list of 25 items probably, and there was like 23 of them were there.
wow.
Yeah. So
I, sorry, keep going.
I'll just wrap it up. I guess for me, the learning was number one, follow your heart, right? Like your heart knows. Don't listen to that little voice that says you can't.
Mhm.
You don't have the money, you don't have the means, it's not the plan. Just follow your heart. And number two, I guess, just like have faith, right? Like have faith in the process. As soon as I surrendered to it, the
Yeah.
money just showed up, and more money than I've ever had in my life. Like it just, boom, there
Yeah.
it is. Like go do what you want,
Yeah.
right? So that was my lesson.
Oh,
Sometimes I'm stubborn and I fight things, but as soon as I can embrace what's happening, it works pretty good.
what I love about this story, though, Ted, and thank you so much for sharing it in such beautiful detail. Like, I felt like I was with you the whole time. Like, I could see that being made into a movie. That's how good that is. I love it. The thing that I love most about this, though, is manifestation can always look different, but when it's something that's so divinely designed for us, we don't always accept it right away because it's not in the form. It doesn't show up in the form that we think it's supposed to be, right? So I actually love that you sort of rejected it a few times. And then it just kept coming back around and around and around. And finally, you couldn't ignore it anymore. And so you leaned into it and then your heart open to it. To me, that is when something is truly like really meant for us. And I do believe that even you writing that list in Maui was like planting the seed, right? And you didn't have to go back over it and over and over it and read it again and again and again. You knew, but then that put into action when you started to create the plan that was part of the creation process, even though it didn't end up being like the house by the river. And when you said pool of possibilities, like my whole body lit up because I am a lover of possibilities. Like playing in possibilities is something that just, ugh, I could play that game all day, every day. And I say that, but I still have experiences like you where I reject then when a possibility shows up and I don't recognize it in the form that I think it should be in. And also because sometimes we think money is our biggest block. But when we can trust our heart and still move forward, guess, like, look what happened for you. More money
Yeah.
than you ever experienced in your whole entire life showed up. And I hear stories like that again and again and again and again. And what I want to say, even for myself out loud and for whoever is listening, that there's a supply for every demand. Like there's a supply for every desire of our heart. And if we could just start trusting our hearts, and you said something that I say all the time, our heart knows, like within 2 seconds, our heart knows. If we just listened to our heart and trusted and had faith, we would always see that we are being so guided and so cared for and so loved by the universe. It's just amazing. I absolutely love that story.
Well, it's a good one, as you were talking, I was thinking of something. We just have to make the decision,
Yeah.
right? Like we just have to say, I will do this.
Mm-hmm.
Not, I think, maybe, possibly, like we just have to say, I will do this.
Yeah.
I am doing this.
Yeah.
And be brave and make the step. And then like once you're on a mission and you say I'm doing something, then it happens, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this one was a perfect example. And I guess just to wrap this up with a ribbon and a bow, most people think, oh, well, that's great. He got this house that he likes. But it's so much more than that. Like
Mhm.
it's this nature's paradise. Like I let my dog out the other morning and he went and chased a moose off. And there was deer in the trails this morning. And there's coyotes and foxes and rabbits and birds. And it feeds my soul. Like this living here has
Yeah.
changed my life. Like it's not just a house. It's like I get to be the guardian of this land. I'm actually putting an easement on it, a conservation easement to protect it for eternity. And it's like I'm connected deeply to this place and it's fulfilled. Like it's been so fulfilling being kind of the guardian of this property for this short time on earth here.
Yeah.
So it really is a lot more than like a story about a house. It's like it nurtures my soul.
But I'm speaking on behalf of all the listeners now, but we can feel that, right? And I think I understand that. That resonates with me because I really truly feel when it's something meant for us that has been divinely designed, that's the purpose of it. The purpose of it is to fulfill our soul from the inside out. That maybe nobody will fully understand except for you, but through you telling that story, we can live vicariously through that and see what's possible for us because I have experienced that in my own life that it's not the end result or the thing itself that fulfilled my soul. It was the process of what I needed to go through and who I became in the midst of that, and then ended up with this experience, this creation that continued to serve my soul from the inside out. And nobody can take that away from you.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful learning, right? And like some of the learnings are, like you said, follow your heart. Like
Mhm.
don't listen to the little voice that says why you can't,
Yeah.
and just have some trust, like have some faith in your life's process. Like just
Yeah.
sometimes you got to jump,
Yes.
go for it, take some risk.
I call that soul jumping. I'm like, so I actually, you know how sometimes we get chills or goosebumps? I renamed that a long time ago to that's when I know my soul is getting ready to take flight and I'm just supposed to jump. I'm just supposed to leap.
Yes, I love that.
I love that too. What would you say to somebody who is listening who maybe hasn't had the courage yet to follow their heart, to trust their heart, like somebody who is maybe just in the beginning stages, what would you say to somebody like that?
I don't know. Honestly, like it's so subjective and it's so different for each one of us, right? Um, like just play with it, right? Like to just play with it. And like if you're scared, then just take baby steps and just try some stuff. And but you have to be positive, right? Like you have to expect that there's a possibility that this thing you're trying to create could actually happen. Like you kind
Yeah,
of have to fake it till you make it, you
yeah,
know? I know in my own life, even though like people that know me would say, "Oh, he doesn't have any limiting beliefs." It's like, yeah, I do, right? Like and they sneak in. I like to think I don't have limiting beliefs, but my mind, even though I'm able to, like, I would say I'm very good at manifesting and creating the life that I want, but things still come in. And it's like, if I'm here, I can maybe only imagine myself like two steps higher. Once I get there, maybe I can imagine myself two steps higher. So, for me, my experience has been it's a process, the growth, right?
yeah,
It's not often where I can go from here to like out into the
yeah,
cosmos. I'm just blasted like here to there. And we're not supposed to be able to do that. Can you imagine if we could just like literally as we thought of something, it was coming in real time to us? Like it would be too much, right? We couldn't
yeah,
handle that.
yeah,
So it's nice that there's a lag time and it's nice that we get to kind of play with it and kind of do the stepping stones thing. So my
yeah.
advice would be have fun with it and believe that it's actually going to work and then it
Mhm.
will work.
Yeah, I love that you touched on that too, because right now I'm doing a 21-day challenge called playing winning the divine lottery game, and it really is to stretch people into their imagination, because when we're kids we use them like to our advantage, and then I find as we get older we use them to our disadvantage, and we've almost created like a box around our imagination where we don't allow ourselves to go beyond that box. And so playing in possibilities is exercise. It's like exercising an intrinsic, invisible muscle that we have to stretch ourselves out of this box and be able to imagine exactly what you said, that it is possible for me. And for me, I'm just going to speak personally. Something that's helped me is I've almost had to remove like the identity of Amy, what's been built from my past, right? Because she's full of stories and limitations and belief systems. So in order to like step into that pool of possibility, I'm going to borrow that. I love that so much. I have to be able to step in there as like what Dr. Joe Dispenza says as no one, nowhere, and no time. And when you do that, what's not possible? Like everything's possible. And play is a huge part of my life. We were talking about this before I hit record. If you're not having fun and you're not lighthearted about what you're wanting to create and getting into that space, I think then we end up creating from a space of like scarcity and lack instead of a place of possibility and abundance and magic.
Yeah, right. Is that glass half full or is that glass half empty? And it's
Mhm.
typically the same people that see it as half full most days, and it's typically the same people that see it as half empty. But you know, I'm kind of living proof that I used to see it as half empty, and now most days I see it as half full. So you can strengthen that muscle.
Yeah.
You have to practice. Like it's like you get out of life what you put into life. If nothing changes, nothing changes. So you got to go change and
Yeah.
try different things. And it's like if you go to the gym for 3 hours every day, like there's going to be a noticeable
Yeah.
difference to your physical body, right? If you go to uh, the school of manifestation and you practice for 3 hours every day, like there's going to be drastic changes in your life compared to the person that's 3 minutes in the gym or 3 minutes in practicing. creating the life they desire, right? So it's up to you how much you put in, and then it's up to you what you get out. So,
Yeah.
and
And
that's different for all of us, and it's supposed to be.
yeah, it's the diversity. That's
Yeah.
that's like the law of nature. That's what makes us all so beautiful and different because there's so much diversity.
Yes.
I love that. So, what would you say this next chapter of your life looks like or is going to be called? Are you creating any, you don't have to share specifics, but is there anything that you're wanting to create in your life right now?
Oh, so much. Like I'm a creator. So yeah, it's always so much. Like it's just there's so many things. I mean, I'm really excited about my real estate team right now. Like to be honest, I kind of plateaued and I hit this point where I had a bunch of staff changeover the past few months, and of course was kind of fighting it, right? And getting kind of sad and worried and scared. And then now I'm like, oh wow, now we've got the dream team, right? Like I wasn't willing to make the moves that I needed to level up. So now that I've got the dream team that are just two are here and two are on their way later this year, I think I'm really excited to see what we can do for our clients and how we can innovate and level up and offer more to them. I'm kind of looking at this plan where I want to protect forests too. So I have this, I won't tell you the details, but I have this really interesting way that I mentioned putting an easement on this land, but like my crazy dream would be to do that on 100,000 acres of land here and protect forests with these easements. And so that's something that I'm playing with as well. I'm in very, very early stages, but I have the ideology. And I'm trying to enjoy work a little more and work a little less too. Like I think that comes at a certain time in life. And I have a little mantra, and it's like work less, earn more,
Ooh, love it.
right? Because it's like I am not prepared to earn less, but I'm also not prepared to work more. Like I worked way too much. Like I worked probably 70, 80 hours a week for 25 years. And it's like
Oh,
that was dumb, but I didn't know any better. And it helped me front load this thing. So
mm,
it's hard for me to fail now because I've learned so much, had so many mistakes, but now I'm like, no, I want to work like how do you work 30 hours a week and keep growth going? So yeah,
yeah.
I'm trying to look at things upside down and yeah, I could go on and on and on, but there's so many things I'm trying to bring into my life.
I absolutely love that mantra, work less, earn more. And I heard another one recently, which is the more I play, the more money I make. And those ones, both of those speak to me. And I just want to highlight too for whoever is listening that we can actually choose. We can, like you said, we can make a decision of what we want our reality to be like and who we need to become to create that. And I love that. I just love that. And I love anything that liberates us from a limitation that we think, isn't possible. And also because money is energy and there's an infinite supply of it. And really, we get to be at our best and our most joyous creative selves in however we want to create that for us. So I love that for you. And I love that you're using also what you've created in your life to protect a lot of nature and forests. I think it's great when we get to the place in our life too where we just want to contribute and serve and give back as well.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I don't know if how much time we have, but I have a very powerful story of how I actually, as you were speaking, I was thinking, oh, you have this story about how I got to work less, earn more. Do you have
Yeah,
time for a short
please
story on
share
that?
it. Yeah.
All right. So I guess I'll give you the background. So I grew up in a family where both on my mother and father's side, they were extremely hardworking people. They prided themselves on their ability to work hard and create things in the world through their hard work. And I think in, today's world, like, and I hate labels. So like, I feel awkward even using this word, but probably workaholic tendencies, right? Both
Mhm.
sides of the family. And so they were also working because they were driven and wanted to create, but also there was a bit of a story like that's where you get your self-worth from, right? And
Yeah.
so that was woven through the fabric of my being because this is what I grew up around, right? And it wasn't just my mom and dad, it was my aunts and uncles and like both sides of the family. So this was my reality. I didn't know any other reality. And when I'd
Mm.
see other people that were not doing that, well, then people in my family would say, well, they're lazy, right? Or they're they're not really doing what they should be doing. So I kind of grew up with this belief system. And so I probably worked, yeah, club. I mean, some weeks were 100 hours, some were 65, right? But probably worked 70 to 80 hours a week for 25 years. And so you think, like, what kind of crazy person would do that for a day, a week, a month, a year, a decade, several decades, right? But I did this and I was locked onto these goals and I could accomplish them because I throw huge amounts of time and energy at them that way. And in 2016, which magically ties back into the first story, so I had that big sale and
Yeah.
I got invited from my real estate coach at a conference in Newport Beach, California. It was called the Millionaire Summit. And
Ooh.
you had to have made $1 million in commissions to be invited. So I got invited, and this was my first year in this club, and I was pretty pumped. And so I
Nice.
showed up, Newport Beach, little Saskatchewan farm kid, and I roll up to this hotel, and it's like Lamborghinis, Rolls Royces, Ferraris
Ooh.
all out front. Like this place was like nothing I'd ever seen. And I'm like, my God, man, I've arrived, you know? And so I go to the first day of events, and there's 70 realtors in the room.
Wow.
And I ascertained within probably the first half hour that if they were listed from top income to bottom income, like I would be number 70. I was the bottom income in the room for sure.
Wow.
Like the gentleman sitting next to me was like 30 years old and he did 15 million in business that year. And he had like 80 people on his team. He was a residential realtor, bought his own staging company, bought his own marketing company, was developing properties and down in the US. And like, I'm just like, the person next to him just sold Jay-Z and Beyonce a house. She was from Beverly Hills. Her average sale price was like 23 million. Her average commission was 5%. She does like 2 sales a month. I'm doing the math in my head. You know, next to her was this broker who had 1,400 agents in like, 20 states and 4 provinces around North America. So, anyways, this is the room. And so I'm pretty pumped. Like I've arrived. I'm the bottom, but I'm a sponge, right? So I'm going out
Mhm.
late with these people, which I never stay up late. And I'm like asking questions and learning everything I can. And I get to the end of the conference and I figured out that most of these people are working like 40 hours, maybe 50 hours a week. And I'm still like 80. So I went home and I was angry for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, like angry. And I didn't know why I was angry, but I wasn't able to process it. Like I started making up stories in my head, like, well, they must have had a start in life. Like their
Mhm.
parents must have given them some money, or they must have had a lucky break, or they like I couldn't process how you could work. Because remember, my belief system was you have to work hard
Yeah.
to get ahead. That's how you get your self-worth. Like this is what and all of a sudden my world was shattered.
Mm.
So after my week and a half or 2 weeks of grumpiness were over, it was just like instant hit me. It was just like my whole world just changed. I dropped the belief system. It just dropped to my feet just in an
Wow.
instant. Well, after 2 weeks of fighting it and being miserable, it was just like
Yeah.
I've been living a lie. I don't believe that you have to work hard to get ahead. I don't believe that's for my self-worth. How is my self-worth going to come from my work? Like this whole thing is a sham. My parents and aunts and uncles who've been living this did the very best they could to tell me
Mm.
this because that's the level they were at. But obviously, all those people in that room, those other 69 people who I respected so much, like they obviously have tapped into something totally different. So
Mhm.
that's when I came up with the mantra was work less, earn more. And so I started taking progressive steps. I started hiring more team members. I started bringing in more expertise. I started making some of the best systems and procedures probably anywhere in the world that are super efficient and effective. I just started like booking time off. I
Mm.
put set hours. I told my clients, we're here 8:30 to 5:30, Monday to Friday. And of course, we'd work outside that when we needed, but we didn't tell people that.
Mm.
So I changed everything. And, today I probably work like 45 hours a week and I'm trying to get down lower
Amazing.
while earning more. So that's a little bit of a prelude how I got to work less, earn more.
I love that. I love that you shared that story, and I was lit up the whole entire time. It's so important also to put yourself in rooms with people who are doing what you want to do, even if you don't see how it's possible. I love that it just clicked for you too, and you felt that belief system just like leave your body, and you could actually step into this new belief. Thank you so much. That's just, you've left us so much gold. Ted, like you've dropped gold. Like gold bombs have been dropped on this podcast.
Well, yeah, I mean, I have hundreds of them. It's just the way my life has gone. And as you can see, once again, I fought against it, right? Like I didn't believe it. This can't be that. Like they must have a trick. Like there's
Yeah.
something I don't know,
Yeah.
right? Kind of like
But
the
that's
house.
the old belief kicking up a
Yeah,
tantrum, right? And to me,
yeah,
that's when you're really onto something. When that happens and that gets louder and more intense, that means it's actually getting ready to leave so that you
yeah,
can up level and upgrade to what's more true for you. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. This is amazing. Okay, I'm going to bring this to a close, but I do have a closing question for you. You probably already might know it. What does winning the divine lottery mean to you when you hear that?
Oh, what does winning the divine lottery mean to me? I don't know. I feel like I've won the divine lottery, like honest to God. I mean, I just came from a funeral on Friday. My grandma, who I loved so much and was like a second mom to me. And even in those moments, all I could find was gratitude for her life that she lived. And all the family came together and how lucky she was to have us and how lucky we were to all be together. And so it's like even in the hardest of times, which this was a hard time for me and my family, I just I think it's just my ability to find the positive in it, right? Like that's our mindset is that's where the divine lottery is. It's just how you perceive the world and how you deal with the things that happen in your life, right? And once I started going with the flow and accepting and just trying to find the greatness in every moment. And that's when I started winning the divine lottery.
Yeah. First of all, I just want to acknowledge your grandmother passing and transitioning. And I resonate with you because I had a very similar experience with my dad. And to me, you are the epitome of what it means to live in a beautiful state and to really see life as a gift and everything that happens within it as a gift and a blessing. Even the hard things, even the most vulnerable moments, because those truly mean that you're alive and you're living fully. So I really just want to take a moment to acknowledge you, Ted, and for coming on here and being who you're being in the world. You are making a ripple effect. I can feel it. I'm so grateful that you've come into my field of awareness and existence. I'm just really excited and happy for the people that are in your life too and that are getting to be magnetized by your radiance and your beautiful soul.
Well, that was very sweet of you to say thank you so much. And thank you for having me here to let me share these stories. As you can tell, I'm pretty inspired about sharing on any topic at any time. So thank you for
Yeah.
having me.